Well, boys, I thought I had her whipped. Got the deck under it yesterday. The deck is crooked. It's 1.5 inches low on one side. And from the manufacturer, the little nuts that you can use to level the deck out are peened. So you have to pull the bracket off and use a drill bit and drill the peens out of the nut. And anybody that's ever messed with one of these, you'll know what I'm talking about. The nut on 3 sides, it's like they put it on to where they want, and then they take a hammer and a punch or maybe some kind of machine, and they peen it 3 times, and you can't adjust it. You got to drill those peens out to relieve the pressure. On top of that, the front end is so wore out that when you drive it, it tows it out by 2 inches. You can see that tire in relation to the back, and then that tire in relation to the back. She's towed out something bad. And I lost a dadgum coil. The right bank, the coil just quit on me. And it's weird, these coils don't really use a pickup off the flywheel. It's not like a standard coil you'd find on a Briggs. You know, you have to gap the coil in relation to the magnet on the, so that it closes and opens the coil correct to fire it. They're fixed. They're not adjustable. And you can get a finger width between the coil and the flywheel. The flywheel does have a magnet on it, but it's got 2 wires coming out from under the flywheel. I'm assuming for like a pickup coil of some kind, kind of like on an ATV. They run up to the coil. Well, I put the engine cover back on, and then the 2 coils share power, ground, and then that wire. One of the wires that comes out from underneath the engine cover. I don't know if we can see them wires over here or not. There they are. The red and the white. The green one don't go nowhere. So the red and the white, I think red's power and white, I don't know what it is. If you look on the coil, it's got 3 wires going to it. One of them says power, one's ground, and the other one says SO. Whatever SO is. I don't know what that is. But when you unplug the terminals off of it, the terminals on the coil are labeled. B plus GD for ground, and then SO. I don't know what SO is. But I looked the coils up. They're actually not available through Kohler anymore. I can find them on eBay and Amazon, and they're quite expensive. So I actually got it out yesterday. Once I put the deck on it, we're gonna drive it around the yard for the first time, and the coil just quit on me. Still got power running to it, still got ground, and you can put a test light on it. I've got a little digital test light from Snap-on. You can put the test light on that SO wire, and you can watch it just barely blink. When you got it at idle, you can see it's getting signal, and when you rev it up, the blink gets so fast, but it barely makes the test light glow. So I know it's just some kind of reference signal or reference voltage. It's not it's not like 12 volts from a battery. So it's kind of like a pickup coil on something with a distributor. It's got a pulse that comes through, and you can usually stick a test light on a regular coil on some carbureted vehicle, and you can see that pulse coming from the distributor. I'm kind of assuming that's kind of like what this is, but it's like once that coil got warm enough, it just died. And I haven't tried to crank it again since it's cooled off or nothing. So, got to figure out what to do with the deck. Got to get a coil. One of them deals. Oh, and the starter took shit on me too. Oh, it's awesome. Anyway, well, I don't know how many of y'all actually watch a bunch of stuff on YouTube, but I follow a bunch of diesel people. One of them I follow is Power Driven. They've got a YouTube channel, and they do some pretty cool stuff on there. And for those of you that don't know, one of the guys that works for him, his name's Josh, and he keeps building a bunch of common rail motors. And this last one he built, Of course, I don't know what went wrong. I didn't build it. I haven't inspected it. I'm not sure they know what went wrong, but he had quite a bit of money in this thing and had it on the dyno trying to get it broke in, get a good bass tune on it. And she decided to chunk a piston. It was a Hamilton block. Hamilton's got a good name for their race products. I mean, if they didn't, I wouldn't have bought a cylinder head from them. Their stuff's pretty proven, and I've seen quite a bit of power made out of their stuff. But anyway, so Josh had built this motor. It blew up on the dyno, and they posted a video earlier today. I know some people have seen it. I think it's Jimmy Kimmel does the celebrities read mean tweets. Well, they did, they read comments off the YouTube channel. People posted comments on the video where he blew the engine up. And some of these people's comments, these keyboard warriors just wear me out. They comment on this stuff. They have no idea what they're talking about because they've never done it themselves. All they know is what they read on the internet. And for those of you that don't know, everything you read on the internet's true. That's the consensus anyway. Keyboard warriors wear me out. If you don't own a set of tools and you don't turn your own wrenches and you haven't done what other people have done, then I don't see any reason in commenting on it. It's kind of stupid to me. If you've never built a diesel engine in your life, you know nothing about compression ignition, just don't comment. It's retarded. People are saying, well, his ring gap was too tight. Well, he done told you his ring gap. People say he overheated it. The thing wasn't hot. There's a lot of things people say. You shouldn't roll coal. Shut up. If you don't know what's going on, don't comment. Just keep it to yourself. My mom taught me at an early age, if you can't say nothing nice, just don't say nothing at all. And I stand to that. I like to let people assume I'm an idiot than to open my mouth and prove it. So any comment that I leave, one, is not going to be negative. Two, if I shout out some information, I'm going to have something to back it up, to help someone. If you can give constructive criticism or some facts, if somebody asks you a question and you've got facts to back it up, then yeah, that's understandable. But when people shout out this dumb shit, well, there's too much fuel. Well, do you even know what the air-fuel ratio is supposed to be on a diesel? Anyway, that's the deal. I'm not claiming to know everything. I don't claim to know nothing. But I do know that what I work on for a daily basis and what I do for a living, I know quite a bit. I don't know everything. I don't. I've messed with very few over-the-road trucks. I've played with a ton of equipment, from really big to really small. I like lawnmowers. They're easy to fit in the shop. They're fun to work with. I love to mow grass. That's one of my therapies. I stick some headphones in. I go to mowing some grass, and I like it. I love doing yard work. I like cutting trees and clearing property. I've done a lot of diesel work. I hate to admit I've done a lot of 6-liter Ford work. I care not to do any more of it. I've not touched a 6.4 or a 6.7 Ford. I played with a lot of 7.3s, made good power with a 7.3. I care not to play with a Duramax, but I have on occasion I had to. I've put injectors in a few, and lift pumps and stuff like that. I care not to touch an Allison. Hadn't done that. I played with a lot of Cummins. A lot of the stuff I work on a daily basis is a 6BT. A ton of equipment has 6BTs in it. A lot of them have Kubota engines. Believe it or not, Kubota engines are a huge power plant provider for a lot of stuff that is, a certain horsepower and down. You're not going to find 200 horse, Kubota motors and stuff. But there's a ton of Cummins out there. There's a ton of Series 60 Detroits. There's a ton of Deutz engines. And a lot of people have never played with Deutz because Deutz don't come in passenger vehicles. They come in equipment. And Deutz actually makes a pretty good engine. They're German. German engineering's a little weird in my book, but it works, and it works well. And I've seen, some of these bigger Deutz engines that are comparable to a 5.9 Cummins. They make around the same power. They're close to the same displacement. 18, 20,000 hours of engine life, of service life before anything goes wrong with them. And a lot of time, they'll they'll chuck a turbo or, something like that, but it's very rare that you have to do anything to them besides, service and maintain them. So I've played with a lot of weird stuff. Dozers, concrete trucks, tractors, JLG boom lifts, scissor lifts. I've played with a lot of weird stuff. And not only have I repaired the stuff, but I've hauled it and I've worked it. So I'm a decent operator. I haven't operated a track hoe in years just because I don't own one. I used to run one on a daily basis. I've run all kind of weird stuff. I've driven dump trucks and whatnot. I've done a lot. A lot of people that work on stuff every day don't get to do the three things that I have. They don't get to, repair the machine, haul it, and use it. They're one of the three, but a lot of people don't get to do all three. Now I know some people do get to do all three. My buddy David, if you're watching, this is for you. I know you've done all three. I know you've repaired the machine, hauled the machine, and used the machine. And, running a machine and knowing how it's supposed to work, I think is part of knowing how to fix the thing correctly. I've come across a lot of equipment I've never seen before. I'm asked to do something to it because it's doing a problem. Well, I don't know how the thing's supposed to operate. So is the operator telling me it's a problem when it's actually not? That's part of how the machine runs. Sometimes you get these operators that just don't know what's going on. They've been given a job to do and a piece of equipment to use. They do this job and they really don't know how to run the machine correctly. Anyway, there's my rant for the evening. If you're going to comment on something and you don't know what you're talking about, just keep it to yourself. A lot of the guys at Power Driven kept reading off these comments about Banks. Well, Banks is a bad dude. He's 70-something years old. He knows his stuff. He really does. But everybody has their strengths and weaknesses, and if Banks' strength is tuning things to meet EPA and making good power and making reliable, more power to you. Banks is a hell of a smart guy. I gotta give him props. He's probably forgot more things than I'll ever know. That's one smart dude. And to try and listen to some of his YouTube videos, some of the stuff he talks about and how passionate he is about it, I get lost. Because some of the stuff is over my head. I'm not an engineer. I'm a mechanic by trade. But I understand a lot of the stuff he says. I understand air-fuel ratios and exhaust gas temperatures, and there's a lot of factors in making good power. But he's making 1,000 flywheel horse out of an L5P with very few things and no smoke. No smoke out of a diesel is, in my book, hard to do. And the newer diesels, you don't see the smoke that comes out of it because of all the particulate filters and stuff like that that are put on the exhaust. If you took all that out and left a stock tune on it, you would see smoke out of the exhaust. And he's making this kind of power with no smoke. More power to him. I'm all for it. But some of us little guys that have mechanical stuff, like a VE pump, you can't hardly make power without smoke. This is 30-year-old technology. If I had tuners and computers and harnesses and all this stuff running out of my ass, yeah, I could probably make some power with no smoke. But it's hard to do with P pumps and VE pumps, and some of us can only do what we can with what we got. And I'm gonna have a lot of money in this engine when I'm done, but yeah, it's gonna smoke. Now, I'm going to try and keep the smoke down as much as I can. I don't want to run around town and, all over America spraying for mosquitoes. We got people that have that as a job to do. I want to make efficient power with the least amount of smoke as possible. If it smokes, yeah, okay. But I'm not tuning it to smoke everywhere. I want to make sure I got adequate air, good flow, and enough fuel to go with my air to make reliable horsepower with the least amount of EGTs and fuel consumption. I'm not trying to, like I said, spray for mosquitoes everywhere. But anyway, I'm going to shut up now. I gotta go eat me some victuals. I'm hungry. It's hot. I'm dripping. But I guess I'm gonna have to order a coil for the old mower and a dadgum starter. Luckily, the starter's way cheaper than the coil. And I'm not gonna replace one coil. If I'm gonna do one, I'm gonna do both. So I'm gonna get 2 coils for it. I'll probably build me a harness. Instead of using the stock stuff, I'll upgrade the wiring so I know there's no voltage drop across them, and both of them are getting the same amount of power and ground and signal. As far as the deck goes, we'll figure that out at a later date. I probably ought to check my tire pressures and make sure everything's even, and measure them and make sure they're the same height before I go adjusting on the deck. Hell, for that matter, I probably ought to get new tires before I even do any of that. But, you know. Anyway, y'all should go check out the guys over at Power Driven Diesel. Super good group of dudes over there. Every time I've called them to order parts, they've been super helpful. I've been working with them a lot on building my Cummins. They're mechanical guys. They know their P-pump stuff. They know their 12-valve stuff. That's why I go to them. A lot of companies, they don't play with 12-valve stuff because they think it's too old. They're nothing but common rail guys. And, you know, that's their area of expertise. That's cool. But I like to work with a company that knows their 12-valve stuff. You know, when I called them up and told them what block I had, what cylinder head I was thinking about getting, and what I wanted to do with the truck, they were very helpful on helping me find the correct parts for my combination to make it work right. And on that note, the guys at Hamilton Cams have been super awesome about it. Go check out Hamilton Cams. They've got a bunch of good products. Their tech guy really knows what he's talking about, and the sales and service people, man, I tell you what, when I had that camshaft failure from them, it was like a no questions asked. I paid to ship their products back to them. They called me up as soon as they got them and said, hey, we got your stuff. We're going to test it. I'm going to call you back in like 20 minutes. And sure enough, they did. And they said, look, this is on us. You know, there was a hardness problem with a couple of the lobes, and we're going to warranty it. Hey, that's awesome. You know, I think they started out as the little guy. And when some of the little guys like me only have a certain amount of money to spend, you know, it's hard to buy a $700 camshaft, run it 15,000 miles, and then have to buy another one. God, that hurts. You know, my pocketbook's only so deep, and I'm trying to do this on the budget. You know, every time I get a chance to buy, I like having the best of the best stuff, but sometimes I just can't afford it. I had this in the budget. I had already planned on buying something like this. The cam, I wasn't planning on having to, you know, to replace. But everything I've gotten, I've tried to do my research on, figure out what's the best part for the money. And some of the stuff, you know, I've bought the best of the best that I can. You know, the best turbo drains. When I go back with fittings, I want, you know, quality AN fittings and quality push lock hose. I don't want nothing Chinese made. You know, I want to make sure I got good stuff on here because I want to do this once. You know, I know there's always some kind of weird failure, you know, but I'm gonna do my best to make sure everything that in this is right. Everything's replaced. Problems have been fixed. Potential problems been taken care of. You know, I want to cover my bases and have the best stuff that I can afford on here, so I've only got to do it once. I want to have the longest service life I can out of this truck, and I'm going to take care of it like that. In the past, I've always run good oil. I really like my, what is this, Valvoline Premium Blue. I've run this in the truck every single time. And because I'm a weird fella, I put a bottle of this in it every single time. Because I've done my research on oils, and I know that by today's standards, there is not near enough zinc in oil for anything with a flat tapping engine. And you can do your research on it. Rotella has actually pulled zinc out of their oil because of new emission standards in diesels. Because even the small diesels, like I think it's 25 horse and up, is now required to have a particulate filter, a DPF, and a urea system on it. So they're having to pull zinc out, because if you do your research on zinc, when they first come out with catalytic converters, catalytic converters were failing because when zinc, and I don't care how well you build your engine, it's going to burn oil. I've never seen an engine in my life that did not burn some amount of oil. But when there is a high level of zinc and phosphorus in the oil, some of it is going to burn. And the problem with zinc and phosphorus is when it burns, it clogs the catalytic converter up. So if you notice in, I don't know, the mid 80s or so, a lot of manufacturers started making roller engines, roller camshafts, so that they could take the zinc out of the oil so that they could make the catalytic converters live. So when everything went roller, they pulled the zinc out of the oil. And they've been pulling zinc out of oil. And the levels of zinc in oil now is very minute. So if, like lawnmowers, most of the spec on these is a 30 weight non-detergent. And if you go find a 30 weight non-detergent oil, usually it is a small engine oil and it has higher levels of zinc in it, because lawnmower engines don't have engine bearings, and I can guarantee you they ain't got no roller lifters. So they have left the zinc in small engine oil. Now, some of the newer engines that have to meet certain specs, because the EPA is cracking down on small engines too, there's there's quite a few manufacturers now that make fuel-injected small engines, and they take a different engine oil. But most of your small engine oil still have zinc in it. So even in my little Ranger, when I change it, she gets a jug of 1030 Rotella, and she gets a bottle of zinc every oil change. And I can tell a difference in how it runs. I run zinc additive in everything I got because I don't own nothing that has a roller camshaft in it. Cummins are flat tappet. My Ranger is flat tappet. The Kubota motor in my tractor and in my Bobcat are both flat tappet. My wife's car is flat tappet. Everything I got's a flat tappet camshaft, so I'm putting zinc in it. Just how it is. But that's the engine oil I run. And I used to do a yearly service. I'd change I've got an external filter on the transmission in my truck. I'd change the transmission filter and top it off. I'd adjust the rear brakes. Let's see. I usually drained and filled the coolant once a year. I ran an overhead on it. I did like a yearly service, but between those services, I'd run 4,000 to 4,500 miles on an oil change, and that's 14 quarts of oil and a bottle of zinc. You can never do too many oil changes. You can do way too few, but with 300 and something thousand miles, I got this truck at 140 something, I think. And I mean, you can look at engine bearings. I mean, 300 and something thousand miles, and it's not like I'm easy on her. I work this thing to death. You can never have too many oil changes. Anyway, we'll talk about that later. Anyway, I'm done talking for the evening. I've said what I need to say. This is supposed to be a mower update, and I got off on a tangent. Anyway, that's the business. I'll do some more research on the mower and see what I can find with it. I hate that I've spent so much money on it and it still ain't usable, but it is what it is. That's that. I'm gonna take myself inside and eat me some victuals and sit in my chair. For now, you've been watching Turtle Man. We'll see y'all.